My name is Pawan. Uh, I've worked in Unilever for the last 22 years. I've been born and brought up in India. I went to engineering at IIT Kharagpur and then did my MBA from IIM Calcutta. And then I've been working in Unilever. Most of my life has been working in various sales and marketing roles, so having to work a lot with both people and brands. And I worked across India where I worked across all the big cities for about 11 years. I then went to East Africa and stayed in Ethiopia and Kenya and worked for about 7.5 years there. And then now I work in London for the last 4.5 years. So a lot of experience of having worked across different cultures, different kinds of countries, different realities from a socio-economic lens, and a very different reality in terms of work culture and the kind of people I've had as bosses, as colleagues, as partners and people who've reported to me as well. And I'm going to put all of that in the next half an hour or 40 minutes out there for you all to listen. And then I would love, if you have any questions, you put them in the chat. I've got a whole host of questions from people who've put it up before. I'll tackle them as well. But feel free to put questions in and feel free to, raise your hand or put a question in the chat to stop me anytime, you don't understand as well. This is really your time, and I'm very grateful for the privilege of your time. And I would love absolutely to make it worth your time versus me just saying, what I think that you want to hear. Um, I'm going to just share my screen right now. If you can give me a thumbs up to say that you can see it so that I know because I'm going to see a full screen here. Let me have a look. I hope you all can see the screen. Okay, I got thumbs ups there. Thank you very much. So, welcome. I'm going to aim to take 20 minutes to cover 10 points on the big shift from campus to corporate, what I'm calling as the cheat sheet and the stuff no one tells you. And then we really leave it open to questions to get there. So, this is me, as I said, I've spoken about myself, but that's the most important people in my life my wife, Ruchi, my elder one Ved and my younger one Neil. And both of them ask me who's my favorite, and I say I just my firstborn and my lastborn are my favorites, so they're both happy. And I really think they keep me grounded through the ups and downs of life. And it's very very nice when I keep them here and remember them as to why I'm doing all of this. So that's me, that's my family, and we'll get straight into it. I have 10 big learnings, and really the first one starts here, which is when you make the jump from a campus to a corporate, when you go from a college to a job, and irrespective of whether it's your first year or your second or third, the big thing that took a long time for me to realize is in school and in childhood, some things are linear. You study, you do well because there's a syllabus, it's fixed, you know what you're expected to do, people teach you that, and you do your best to learn it, and then you put it out, and the better you do it, the better marks you get. It doesn't depend on anything else. And second, there are always people who take care of you. Your parents, your relatives, your ecosystem is always there to shelter you and take care of you when there's a challenge. So you feel sheltered. And suddenly, when you make the jump to work life, those two things don't happen anymore. So, really acknowledging that in the work and adult life, you'll have ups and downs, and it's not just up. And every time you're feeling down, whether it's from a rejection in an interview, or it's an appraisal that didn't go well, or a project that didn't get a great review from a customer, it's absolutely fine because it's sometimes things are ambiguous. And if you don't have a down, you won't have a up. The easiest analogy I can give is this is very similar to playing snakes and ladders where irrespective of what you put, you can draw a six on a dice. If you land upon a snake, you'll go down. And that is, as long as you accept it, you'll always get to the 100 and win. But that's the first big shift. And the second is to really realize that either no one is coming to save you or no one really is bothered or is thinking about you. We tend to overthink that in terms of what we believe. And once you get that realization that no one's coming to save you and no one's really thinking about you, it's a very liberating experience because you can go out and then do whatever you want. You can take risks, you can take experimentations. You do not have to worry about what other people will think because they're busy thinking about themselves. And equally, you know that you have to do it because that's what will take you ahead. So that's the fundamental shift of the migration from school and childhood to work and adulthood. And that sets the tone for almost everything. And I'm just going to put chat here if I can see. Just give me a sec. Um, yeah, there you go. Richie Guru, is that a question? Make it full screen, please. Okay. May I think I have the screen. Okay, hold on. Guru says I need to make the screen on Spotlight. Okay, let's do that. Give me a sec. Let's get that right before we keep going ahead. Because otherwise, uh, okay, hold on. Let's take that. Nope, not this. This is my first experimentation with Zoom, and as such, it is a big learning experience for me too. So let's have a look. Because normally at work we use what is it? Teams, and you get much more used to this. So this is a good example of learning real time what you're doing. So give me a minute. Let me just stop sharing for all of 1 second, get this sorted out, and then we can get going as well. There we go. There we go. Okay, let's have a look now. Bum, bum, bum. There we go. There we go. And there we go. Now let's have a look if it's okay. Now let me know if it's full screen. Okay. Let me put it in the chat. Can everyone see the screen in full screen mode? Okay, I think we should be good to go. Yeah, I can't. If anyone gives me an emoji, that would be super useful because then I can see whether the screen is visible to you in a full screen mode. Okay. Okay, so we can get going. So back to the learning. So the first one I was speaking about is really the jump from childhood to adulthood and really knowing that no one's coming for you and that no one is thinking about you, which is not bad, by the way. I say it in a very positive way because that's truly liberating for you to do what you want to do. So that's one. Then the remaining nine learnings I have categorized into three sections. First one is about you versus you. The second is you and others, and the third is the future you. And we'll go through that. And like I said, please feel free to put questions and we can talk about it. In you versus you, the most important thing in my experience is to really focus on your health. And the reason I say it is not blah, what is he saying? It's really to go into the nuance of what health means. Today, we live in an era of having mobile phones that are outstanding that you can just replace as soon as the new version comes out and they recharge fast and you get your apps working very well. But think of your body and your mind as a phone that you cannot replace, right? It's almost like having an iPhone 1, which you have to work with for the rest of your life. And now think how carefully you have to take care of it to actually survive and thrive. And that to me has been the biggest difference in all the people I have worked with and I have trained over the years in terms of those who've succeeded and continue to do well and those who've not is they've always put their health first. And what do I mean by health? I mean two things. One is really your physical and mental health. Hacks just as simple as taking a 15 minutes walk every day actually clear our body and our mind. There are people who go to gyms, there are people who exercise a lot. They are doing the right thing. So, really, what are you doing to exercise your body and mind every single day? You'll find that your mood will change even for that tough conversation or a Zoom call you have coming ahead. You'll find that if you're blocked and you're not getting an idea on how to solve something you're working on, it will really clear your mind. Taking a walk, focusing on the outside, and just focus. The second thing on health is really what I'm calling as the social and the spiritual side, which is today we live in an era where all of us have our heads buried in social media, but it's not really social media, is it? It's actually dragging us into a very small world of jealousy, of showing what others are doing, and not building social connection, but actually having a circle of friends, families, relatives, somebody you can call when you're down is actually very, very important because we are social beings as human beings. We like to be out there, we like to have groups. So, if you have those groups of people who you can actually confide into, and not just your office friends when you're going out for a drink or going out for dinner, that makes a big difference. And I always tell people Differentiate between people at office and people outside. People at office are good for a drink, are good to have fun, but they may or may not be your best friends, because the moment you change jobs, you lose connections. And be careful of what you also say in those circles. But have a separate social circle, friends, families to take care. And as long as you have these health foundations set up right, everything else follows. The second is about trust. This is the second most important thing that I have seen that youngsters, and even me, I remind myself every day, is the foundation of success. What does it mean? It means you have to do what you say what you do. And in many cases, it means very simple things. It means when you tell your boss or your colleague that I'm going to send a note or an email by 5 o'clock this evening, it means that you actually send that note out at 5 or just before 5, just like all the folks on the call who joined 2 minutes before the call. That's exactly trust building. If we say we're going to start at 11:30 and you join at 11:30, I'm like, wow, you are reliable, you're trustworthy, you do what you say. But many a time we forget it because people around us don't do that. When someone else tells you that I'm going to send you something tonight and it doesn't come and it's normalized, we say, oh, that's how it happens here. But no, that one person who actually does and says the same thing actually goes up, because both your intentions then come true, that this person has the right intentions. Your integrity comes through, saying, wow, I can trust them on their word, and your reliability goes up. And if you're a manager, if you're a boss, the one thing that you want is reliability. It's not getting stuff done, because sometimes things happen and sometimes things don't. But they need that reliability, saying, if something is going wrong, this person will tell me. If they've said they'll do something on this time, they will do it. And that is the bedrock, because if you cannot trust someone, how will you ever work with them? How will you ever promote them? Right? So, absolutely ask yourself, are you being trustworthy? Not can you trust someone else? Maybe you can't. But are you being trustworthy? Are you the person in the office where people go like, that person, you can rely on them anytime? The next is showing up, which is compounding. Once you have your health and once you have your integrity and trust in place, it's about showing up every day, because you have these ups and downs as we spoke about, right? So when you encounter a failure, a bad appraisal, a bad day at work, things didn't work, a toxic boss, a toxic work culture, a lost project, do you have it in you to actually come up the next day and showcasing, you know what, I'm still here. Sometimes I'm crawling, sometimes I'm walking, sometimes I'm running, but I'm here always, and I'm going to keep moving on, because in my experience, the people who keep moving on keep winning, because not because you're running the fastest, but because other people give up midway. And I'm sure all of you on the call know many people like that who go like, I've had it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not there, and then you find yourself saying, oh, I'm the only one left standing. So, how do you actually show up? Because every time you show up, you're learning something new. So, that's you versus you. What I'm calling as the HITS framework, focusing on your health absolutely first, health and family first as the foundation. Second is having the integrity and building your trust. And the third is the importance of showing up absolutely every day, come what may, even with whatever you have going on in you. The second section is about you and others, which is in most cases, in most of our corporate life, you actually have to work with others. And that's a big shift from having to work in your academic life and school life, because in school life, really, you're working yourself and you're working against others, right? Because you're studying for your exams or your curriculums, or you're sitting for an interview. You have to get past the other person, you have to defeat the other person to get that job. You have to score better marks than the other person to get, the first position or something. So it's almost you against others, you focusing on your own input. But suddenly, when you come to a corporate job, almost all corporate jobs are working in a team. You have to work in a project team to get to stuff together. You have, colleagues, you have clients, you have customers. Suddenly, it's not that you can run away somewhere and just focus on yourself. And that big shift is something that we're going to talk about now. In that, my big learning over time, having done many jobs, is first impressions and the first 100 days matter, right? Like I was saying, I've worked 22 years now. And a couple of years back, when I was applying for a job, to somebody I didn't know within the company, and we call it an open job posting, and I applied for a job. Some boss of mine from the year one of my work called me and said, "Hey, I heard you applying for this job." And the person who's recruiting called me up because we happen to know each other from way back and we play golf together. I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have guessed. I didn't know that the person I was applying the role for, who was the boss, who I had no clue about who they were, actually knew my very first boss from when I started my job. And they called, and I'm like, oh my God, thank goodness I left a first good impression when I was working with that boss that actually came to play when we came back and applied for this job. So you'd never know when these impressions will work. You never know who's going to meet whom again. If you think that you're going to leave a company and you're going to leave a team behind, you don't know if that person's going to come back into your life, or that team is going to come back into your life, or that HR person is not going to skip and join another company 2 years back or 2 years later somewhere, right? It's a very small world, particularly if you get into specialized areas. So it's very, very important to leave good impressions. And to do that, why do I say the first 100 days matter? It doesn't mean that if you are in your year one of your job and you're at day 400, it doesn't work. What I mean to say is, please build relationships that bridge with people and leave impressions when you have no work with people. That's the most important one. Not when you're already on a project, or not when you have to reach out to them for help. It's about actually reaching out to people when you have no agenda, saying, you know what, I've joined this job. I see that you're in this team, or you're my colleague, and I just wanted to say hi, and ask you if I can help you in any other way, and seek your advice in how I do this job better. And there's nothing better than these three things, because when you say hi and talk to people, you end up finding common areas of things. You may like a common football team. You may have kids of the same age. You may, like the same kind of food. That commonality builds the thing that, oh, we're part of the same team because you and I have something in common. So that even when we are working, when you have disagreements, this commonality comes into play. Second, when you say, how can I help you? They go like, oh, look, what a nice person. They're not asking for help from me. They're saying how I can help them with anything. Maybe it's your experience from your previous job. Maybe you're an absolute Excel pro, or an AI champ who can help them. And the third, when you say, I'm going to seek advice, people love giving advice because you're respecting them. You're putting them on a pedestal, and you're almost like flattering them. And who doesn't like flattery, right? So it's almost like, oh, look, the person is respecting me to actually ask me. So on day 200, when you actually have to go and you actually have to ask them for stuff, or you have to work with them, this foundation sets you in a very good way. And secondly, the fact that much later in life, imagine somebody calls up the person to get some referral or a recommendation. Imagine how much this works. Most jobs, by the way, 70-80% of jobs today are from referrals and networks. Have you ever seen a job description on LinkedIn for a CEO? And that's the thing. As you keep going up, more and more jobs are never going to be posted. They're going to be quietly searched off by headhunters, by recruiters, by bosses calling up saying, hey, I'm looking for this kind of a job. And that's where these impressions that you build up actually come into play. The second learning in you and others is about the big shift you spoke about. It's not a solo team sport you're playing anymore. It is a team game. It's not tennis, it's football. And suddenly, what that means is when you're getting to work and you have your own to do list, it's also asking, saying, what is the other person expecting of me? It's like if you're a midfielder, it's not just tackling and not letting the ball go into your defense, but also saying the person in the forward is expecting me to pass the ball to him or her. So, what is it that people are expecting from you on that day? Say today, I've got my own to-do list, but because of this project and for it to move forward, I need this to get done, and I need to give that to the other person. If you put that on top, you're playing football, the team will score a goal and you'll win, versus staying focused on your own to-do list. The second thing is, if you're playing a football game, you really need to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the other people in your team as well. So it's not just your contribution to the project or a team. It's also saying, oh, that person is very good in doing this, so let me take their help on this. Or equally, I know this person or that group of people are weak in a certain area. So I need to remember that, and I need to be careful when I'm doing my work in terms of not letting my good work go to shame, because they let the ball go through. So what is it that you need to know about your team is very, very important when you're doing this versus saying, I'm just going to do my own to-do list. So my biggest hack is when you look at your own to-do list, is it stuff that you have to do for yourself, or is it acknowledging what you need to do for other people? And is it acknowledging the challenges you have of other team members? Because no one's going to tell you that. The last thing on you and others is really the confidence flywheel. What I want to say here is everybody gets jobs and they do it, but the four big things that I've figured out that are important here is when the boss gives you a job, right? So some of you may have great bosses, some of you may have toxic bosses, some of you may have indifferent bosses. You're going to encounter all kinds of bosses, in your job. And many of the questions, that you'll have given today, I have been linked to bosses. Someone asked questions about what do you do with bosses who are busy or pretend to be busy? What do you do with bosses who don't give you time and are toxic? These are my four biggest hacks. The first is to really clarify deliverables, right? Saying, what is it that you're expecting me to do? Document it, saying, if you're, can you please get this done? Sometimes when you have vague bosses, things get very emotional, things get very toxic, things get very confusing. And the way out is clarification and documentation, saying, okay, you've told me to do this today or you're giving me this project. Let me clarify that I've understood you correctly and that you're expecting me to do A, B, and C. That, first of all, gives you clarity on what to deliver. So you can hold that person accountable and gives you confidence saying, I'm doing the right thing. Equally, it calms down people because you're saying, hey, look, this is what we agreed, right? So it's out there. The second is asking for help. Now, this is like the boss has hired me or the company's hired me to do the work. If I keep asking for help all the time, am I not going to look like someone clueless? Yes, you are going to look clueless if you keep asking for help all the time. But the nuance is if you do your homework and you say, boss, I've studied all of these things, I've read these books, or I've gone to these websites, or I've analyzed all these documents, and here's what I've found, and here's what I've understood, but I still have some gaps where I'm struggling with, that makes a big difference because suddenly you're showcasing that I've done my homework, I've done my work, I've analyzed everything, and still I'm struggling versus great, I need to do these deliverables. I don't know anything. Tell me what to do. If you're asking to be spoon fed, you will struggle because people are like, why am I paying you money if I need to spoon feed you? But if you do your homework and ask for help, it really helps. The third is to deliver and document results. This is the biggest thing that people don't do. They wait till end of the year to say, boss, here's what I've done. If you have a busy boss or a boss that's pretending to be busy and is not giving you time, it's very important that you deliver and document and send that across saying, as agreed, these were the deliverables. This is what we have done. Here's the output, here's the presentation or the KPIs done, and here's it for record. Because not only does that help you in your end of year or whenever your appraisal cycle is, equally, it helps you in the future because after a point, you're not going to remember all the deliverables that you've done and all the projects you've done. And years later, you're like, oh, I really want to highlight that in my CV or resume. And you suddenly forget all the numbers and KPIs. So documenting helps. And third, bad luck, something happens and things go south, documenting stuff always helps in discussions. You have a bad time at work with your boss, you want to go to HR, showing what you've done in terms of deliverables, in terms of the documentation, really makes a big difference. And the last is helping your boss looks good, whether we like it or not. The bosses have a role to play in your success, not just the boss, but we'll come to that. But you do have the boss as an important stakeholder. So asking the boss of how you can help them and what pain points you can solve for them is a great way to reduce the tension because then they don't see you as a threat. Right? In many cases today, bosses are scared because the youngsters are smarter than them, they're more determined and driven, and they may be insecure because they're not working well. So, first, you need to bring that stress down from them, saying, I'm here to help you. And then you need to build your networks and all separately, which we'll talk about. The last section is the future you. And I've used this image, very deliberately because many of us in the quest today, maybe you're a year in your job or maybe you're a couple of years in the job and you're climbing the ladder or you're climbing a mountain which you have and you have a future in mind. Sometimes that mountain we're climbing might be crumbling and we don't realize it. right? If we are an expert in a certain topic, but that area is getting, wiped out because of AI, or I'm working in a certain sector, but that sector is seeing absolutely complete change in terms of what it needs to succeed because of something else happening in some other sector, you need not just to climb the mountain, you need to actually jump to some other mountain and climb. And that shift is the future. You're not being steadfast in saying this is the only path I have and I'm going to go there. It's also about looking at saying there are multiple paths, and sometimes the path I'm on may not lead me anywhere because of things happening outside my control. And that's what we'll talk about here. The three things I'll talk about here, which then brings us to the end of the 10 things, is first, always having a plan B, always being ready to walk away. If there was one thing that I'd like you to remember in building your future, it's this slide. And how do you always have a plan to walk away? First is to have a financial cushion. Now, when you're young, you're earning money, hopefully the money keeps rising as you grow up. But having a financial cushion that you start building every single day from the day you join will give you a great amount of relief, because then that gives you the first cushion to leave. So imagine if you've built up a corpus of 3 to 4 months or 6 months of a salary that you've built up. You can walk away if you have a toxic boss. You can walk away if you have a toxic culture. You can walk away if you don't find that job to be rewarding, right? And financial cushion is about saving money from your salary, keeping your expenses lower than your income to the extent possible, taking insurance from a health and a life lens that you're secure there, and just doing what you can to have that. The second is to be always connecting, and this is what will take you out of the narrow vision of depending on your boss or depending on your company or depending on your HR to take care of you. Because if you go back to the very first learning, we said no one is coming to take care of you, right? So you need to constantly build your networks outside of a vertical line saying, I only know my boss and I only know the HR, etc. I have multiple conversations, building your connection through your projects with your clients, with your customers, with other people's bosses, because you may be in different projects. You need to always be connecting. You need to have a cup of tea or a coffee. You need to go out and say, oh, I'm so glad we worked together on a project last year. I'm just checking if you're well. You need to keep those connections warm. Second, you need to build your networks outside the company, attending conferences, attending events, attending webinars like this or other webinars, actually going out and having your CV ready and reaching out to headhunters on LinkedIn or looking at projects. You need to build that network and you need to build this connection so that when the time comes, if you're leaving, you have your CV ready, but you equally have a lot of people that you've worked with and you've built connections with to actually send it to. And the third is upskilling. Constant upskilling has always been important. But to me, very practically, the single biggest hack I have right now for youngsters is today we're living in a world where AI and Gen AI in particular is booming. There are loads of things that are coming up every day. And people who have been working 10, 15, 20 years today are feeling that pinch. They're feeling, that sense of insecurity saying, oh, I don't know what's coming. And that is what will work in your favor. So you have to be that AI champ in that office to say, you know what, I've seen Lovable, I can make your website in 5 minutes. I've worked with the latest Nano Banana Pro and I can create images, in 2 minutes. By the way, this whole presentation I've created using, Nano Banana Pro yesterday with simple prompts because I want to learn. So in today's day and age, if you're a youngster and you're seeing AI booming, actually becoming that AI champion, whatever part of the value chain you work in whatever, whether you're in finance, marketing, sales, HR, and saying, I've got this, I know, will instantly put you way above and take care of the lack of experience you have when you're applying for a job. You go like, hey, this person has 5 years experience and I have one. AI and actually upping your skills in AI bridges that gap because suddenly that's the hot thing. So really be very clear on that. The second is what I'm calling as the IQ, EQ, and MQ. The IQ we all know. EQ is emotional quotient, and the third is moral quotient. As you go ahead in your job and career, IQ gets you hired, right? How intelligent are you? Can you solve this problem? Can you solve this puzzle? But as you get into corporations, a lot of it is working in teams, as we spoke about. So really building that emotional quotient to say, I know how to deal with people. I know how to work with people. I'm being seen as the person who goes out of his or her way to help the team. Emotional quotient is high. I'm the person who's seen who keeps calm in the middle of a storm and is able to help the team get through. Your EQ is high. I'm the person who's understanding that emotions are playing a part here. And when we get into work with the team, I'm checking how people are doing. I'm asking somebody, maybe on the call or maybe on the chat, saying, "Hey, you're not looking, okay. Is everything okay? Can I help you? Oh, something's happened." Everybody's having some personal issue going on at any point of time. So when you become the person who understands that and works with that, saying, "I understand you're having a tough day. Maybe you had some issue at home. Maybe something else is happening. Maybe your parents are unwell." How do you work with that? And you are embracing that person with that understanding means your EQ is high. And the third is the moral quotient. Today we live in a very, gray world where a lot of good people I have seen have done bad things under pressure. Imagine you're in sales and you have a month end or a target coming up, and somehow you do something wrong because the insane pressure to deliver on the results makes you do something that's not right, and suddenly you see, hey, nothing's happened. And that builds the flywheel of doing more and more bad things. But in my experience, it always catches up with you. Somebody will do a evaluation, somebody will do a check, and sometimes you're just collateral damage. Even if you say, my boss asked me to do something wrong and I just did it, doesn't save absolutely anybody. So having that very high moral quotient of saying, I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to resist the pressure, and having that ethics and integrity as the backbone will be the most important thing in terms of actually fine. The last thing, and then I'll address questions, as we get in, is as you go through your journey, right? We said there will be ups and downs, there will be challenges, there will be everything from failed projects to toxic bosses. There will be equally, great days where you get promoted and your things are happening. But at the end of the day, staying balanced is important. And I found these 6 things to really work. The first is breathing. We're like, breathing? I'm like, yeah, we all breathe, right? But I'm saying conscious breathing. When you're in a call and you're stressed out, when you are, just getting fed up with what's going around you, when you're feeling bad, just breathing and staying calm for 4 seconds makes a world of a difference when there's so much noise around. I'll do it again for you and you'll just see the difference. There you go. Practice breathing. I'm not saying everybody needs to be a breathing expert and a yoga expert, but just taking time to just breathe will make a whole lot of difference here for you in whatever you're doing. Second is going for a walk. As I've spoken about this before, the benefits of just getting up and walk. By the way, when I say walk, I mean walking without your phone, walking without any headphones, just walking for 15 minutes inside your house, outside your house, downstairs in your apartment complex, downstairs in the office, car park will make a big difference. Third is smiling. Our brain and our body and our mind are all wired. Sometimes when you do things with your body like smiling, like this, your mind actually starts acting on it. Your mood changes. It works in a better way. So smile. It's okay. Things are going to get better. Fourth is actually having a social circle and talking to people. And here my biggest thing is what I've learned the hard way is the circle of friends you keep makes a big difference. If you're going to be around toxic people, cynical people, people who are always dragging you down, please, the best thing you can do for yourself is cut them away from your life, because you are the summation of what people are telling you. Surround yourself with people who are positive, who are optimistic, not people who say, "Acha, yaar, nothing can happen. Oh, this company is useless. Oh, that job is it's waste. Oh, you are whole." There are people who are constantly negative, cynical, and they are not going to go anywhere in their life. So please, my recommendation, my learning is be careful of the WhatsApp groups you're in. Be careful of the anger filled messages that you keep reading when people are complaining and people are raging. Subtly, subconsciously, you'll become like that. Surround yourself with more positive people, positive messages, and you'll see a big difference. The fifth one is being kind to yourself, saying you've done your best, but equally being kind to other people in your office, in your circle. You will find that everybody is battling their own job, and as long as you're kind, you will find that it is the best form of self-healing, because we've been grown up and we are designed to help people. That's the socialness in us. So if you're finding yourself stuck, or if you're having a really bad day, nothing is working, my biggest hack is doing something to help someone. Someone's reached out to me on LinkedIn, I'm going like, yeah, let me help you, let me answer you. Someone's asking for 5 minutes for a call, let me do it. I feel so happy because I'm like, oh, I was able to help someone, and there's always a positive outcome from that versus just sitting, brooding on the corner. And the last thing is to get home safely, right? Everybody has a family, has friends, has someone who's waiting for you. So please, the most important thing is when you finish work, leave work at work, go home, get home safely, and have a great life, right? So those are my big 10 hacks, like I said, in campus to corporate. The first was really to understand the big shift from the fact that in childhood people are taking care of us, that when we are grown up no one is coming to take care of you, no one is even bothered about you, so it gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. Second, we spoke about the importance of health, both the physical and the emotional and the mental health and the social and the spiritual health, and really keeping that at the forefront of it. We spoke about integrity and trust, doing what you say and saying what you do. We spoke about showing up every single day. That was the versus you. In you and others, we spoke a lot about the importance of working, that it's a football and it's not, a tennis game. We spoke about the importance of actually getting stuff done and building that networks and relationships. And let's see, what else did we speak of? So I don't forget. We spoke about the importance of first impressions and making the first 100 days matter, really helping people, asking for advice, and just saying, hello. In future you, we spoke about the importance of having, the plan to actually be able to walk away absolutely anytime. We spoke about IQ, EQ, and MQ. And at the end of the day, we said these six basic principles will actually take us forward.